Hello, we are back in Planet Coaster today, working on the wonderful Pokemon Go theme park here. And today we are starting, at least the beginnings, of Pallet Town. So Pallet Town, of course, being the hometown you start in Red and Blue, and other Pokemon games also in the anime. So we're going to be doing some tall grass to start out with, because I figured that it would be nice to have areas to really reflect kind of the game world itself. And we're actually getting maybe away from just making a theme park and almost just like a recreation of like the area in general, using kind of the powerful creation tools we have here in Planet Coaster to try and make something a little less theme parky, maybe a little bit more almost like it's a livable place. So that's something pretty cool that's kind of happening, I think, over time and a little bit more dynamically than planned. So these tall grass areas, surrounded by fences, they're very common in the Pokemon games. You go in there, you're catching a lot of the wild Pokemon there, and you're also doing a lot of your heavy training, just grinding out those experience levels for your Pokemon so that you can go battle the next gym in the next town. And also, the nice thing about them is that it does make the place look a little rural. We have, Pallet Town here that's supposed to be a really small town, in the game. I mean, it's 2 houses and a lab. So it's pretty cool to take that kind of information and make something a little bit, I guess, extrapolated and a little bit more filled in than the base material. So gonna add some rocks, details. It's kind of a lot of detailing episode, but the main structure that we're building today is going to be Ash Ketchum's house. If you want to, I guess, quote the games, this is where you would, where Red would start, in the Pokemon games if you didn't rename your character. But what I've noticed from my source material, which I'll actually go ahead and throw up on the screen around this time, is that there is a dirt path going through Pallet Town, not so much a main road. So those main roads I'm kind of reserving for the heavy flow of people throughout the park, and then I'm going to use the kind of tan pathing to kind of represent dirt pathing, as I don't really want to use the natural sand, just because the sand color, I think, doesn't look quite as good as the sandstone brick path. So that's why we're doing it like that. I was going to add a little house here, but I figured out that it might have blocked Professor Oak's house from being seen down here. And so we're just going to throw in some more area for our wonderful wild Pokemon to spawn, and you can go catch them. I guess I'm kind of changing the theme to be really Pokemon Go inspired, in the sense that, like, this park maybe you pay to get in, they have a lot of Pokestops or what have you, that everyone's so excited to find, and you can actually go walk around what would be kind of a representation of Pallet Town, which is really cool. So we're gonna have a couple homes along the main road there, and then these areas just south of it. If you look at the original source of the game, just directly beneath your starting house, there is that patch of garden, and so I think that tall grass area down there kind of represents that. So here is the base shape for Ash's house, and we don't really have the color for it. It's the source material is like a really light blue from the anime, and so I'm trying to find something to use as a light blue. And so what I'm gonna have to do is use these kind of roof pieces to make a wall out of it. Now, I could have used the plain default blue wall, but it doesn't have those lines. I want these lines to go through it because it's a siding kind of effect on the house. And so I feel like it's really important to try and get that siding kind of look wrapping around the whole structure. Gonna go ahead and throw up a white foundation. I'll end up lowering it back down, but this is just so I can kind of see where the ground line is going to be and work on elements a little bit quicker, but have it floating in the air. And I guess for me, that's a really easy thing to do. The night cycle here, I'll probably turn that off, I think, as soon as it becomes morning. And gonna shrink the front porch, as it was a little too big. And we don't really have a red roof, as we explained in Professor Oak's kind of speed build area. So we're using these kind of copper windows here, and just the wooden element, because it's a little bit more of a reddish hue than anything else you could probably find in the game. And that's going to give us a red roof. Going to use some of these thin columns to make a nice kind of staircase down, so the front steps are actually kind of functional, though there's no actual path going into the house there. And now this blue, it's a really dark blue in comparison to the source material, which is it's a little bit of a bothersome thing. But once they add the functionality to colorize walls and other pieces, I could have used the wooden wall piece and then just colorize it this light blue, and we would have been done from the get-go. I think that would have looked really nice. But until then, this is kind of the only solution I could come up with to make it look blue. And you know, a white building I think would have looked maybe a little too boring, I guess, for my eyes. So, you know, just referencing all the little windows here and throwing up our roof, which I actually do incorrectly at this point. I wanted to try and save kind of the count of entities on the roof, but it wasn't really going to look right doing it like this. And so I went ahead and looked over at Professor Oak's, and I did it completely different over there. And I went ahead and re-rotated them and laid them out just using the top section, just so we have a nice kind of smooth, kind of reddish brown roof line. You know, really wish we had that really bright red kind of tiled roof, as I think that would make the structure look a lot better and a little bit more like anime, because anime, you know, generally use some brighter colors than these kind of dull earth tones that we use a lot here. Gonna go ahead and copy paste the whole section over, and then go in and remove the bits that I don't want to copy, and then use that to go ahead and fill in the rest of the roof. Now these other side peaks here, I have to actually edit our base kind of copy here and get it down so that it doesn't clip through the walls, and then we can quickly fill in those areas. Gonna run a vertical kind of element across the top just to kind of seal off those sections, and even fill in the gaps as well using some vertical elements, just so that, you know, we don't have any ugly kind of dark lines running through any of the structure. It's a very clean kind of structure that I'm basing it off of, so I want to try and keep the whole thing as clean as possible. The inside is messy as anything else in Planet Coaster, because that's just how it is. But you know, I want the outside to look fairly good and represent what I think Ash's house would look like. So beyond that, the back side of the house, I'll end up putting in I think a Chief Beef kind of food stall, and that's just so people will actually be encouraged to walk around this house as guests, because it's supposed to be a park, you know, still in the long run. And so, you know, it's really important to make sure people are moving around in areas. Otherwise, you just have all these pathing sections that really aren't going to serve any purpose. Notice there was a front deck on Ash's house, which was pretty interesting. I didn't know why they would have a front deck plus a kind of a patio kind of element on the front door. It seemed a little weird, but they do have a kind of glass sliding door just to the side. And so I had to go in and add that kind of wooden deck there, just so that's kind of represented in some fashion. And then obviously we're going to try and handcraft some window frames around these modern windows, as you know, they should have kind of these white wooden trim, but we don't really have that block in the game, so I'm having to use kind of this marble stone kind of effect. Also, not really on the source material is the fact that I'm adding a chimney, just because I feel like it just something on the roof would be nice to look at, and it will give us a really nice kind of, I guess, place to kind of rest your eye as you're kind of looking over the whole structure. Not that it's overly complicated anyways. This is actually a really simple structure, but the reason it's hard to build is just the lack of proper pieces to actually put it together. I was a little surprised at that, just how I think it took me a little over an hour and a half to throw together just this small home. If it was a stucco home, it would have been a lot quicker, but just due to how, how limited we are in certain color palettes, that this is why, I'm really excited for the next update and we have the power to colorize things, because I might have to go back in and redo just the walls, just so it's a little bit more accurate. Gonna copy the fences over because he does have a nice little yard here, and then surround pretty much the whole house, and we'll also add kind of the garden area on the back using some shrubs and some other elements. Going to be, Pallet Town, I'm pretty excited to get this thing built, as it's definitely way different than the Roman theme park that we were working on. It's very rural. It's very, quaint, small, just very, very almost relaxing to build this kind of stuff. I'm a little bit more in my element building this kind of stuff than theme parks in general, as to me, I'm almost like playing The Sims, if you think about it. Like, I have this plot of land, I built a house, and now I'm putting a bunch of trees and shrubbery around it to kind of fill up the backyard. It's very interesting that, we can do kind of what we can do in The Sims and just Planet Coaster here. So, yeah, gonna add some flowers, gonna kind of hint on a path kind of going around the building. And then eventually I actually throw in a dirt terrain path that people can actually walk on to the backside. I don't know if that's shown in the speed build or not. There is a lot of kind of off-camera stuff, just placing rocks and other kind of terrain elements around that I find pretty boring to record. There's not really much that I can really talk about that beyond just place rocks down and shrubbery down, try and show some volume, try and show some interesting shapes. But I will say that this road, the main roads, are raised up. Now, the reason for that is in the video games we have these pathways that we walk on and to get around, but the thing is that there's like these dividers out of stone, or they basically represent little cliff faces, and so you can jump down off them, but you can't jump up onto them. And so that's why I raised the path up that little extra bit, is so that it's kind of representing that. So there's only certain ways on and off the path that you can take, and you're kind of locked in otherwise. Some more grassland. I really like adding these kind of elements. It just makes the whole area feel very country, and I do play some Stardew Valley, and so I do enjoy kind of working on almost like farm elements, as it just fills in the area quite nice. So now we're just going to place down some rocks here, and what I'm going to end up turning this into is going to be a little pond, and that's just going to represent the southern kind of water section of Pallet Town. Now, I know that connects to the ocean, but in my mind, a good, quick, easy way to kind of represent that in a theme park would just make a little pond element, just something to bring in some water, and that'll be it. So that's it for the speed build section. Let's go ahead and jump to real time, and we'll basically go over everything. Alright, so here we are in Pallet Town, real time and everything, so you guys can see how everything is running. Sitting at some good FPS, definitely compared to the last park. And let's go ahead and take a look at just how quaint kind of everything is coming together. You definitely feel like you're in the countryside here. And I even, opened up a ride, though it's not fully connected. You can kind of see our coaster. It's not done yet, and that's what we're going to be doing next episode. But on the back side here, we have our wonderful Chief Beef, and that's going to be serving food for our guests, and they're going to sit in the backyard at these picnic tables and just have a good time, and just enjoying the scenery in general. I think sitting here at this picnic table watching a roller coaster go up would be a pretty cool sight to see. Kind of really wish we had almost a white fence to use, because it should have a white picket fence kind of surrounding the whole structure there. And also, it should be a white deck, but whatever. I can't be too nitpicky, just because I just don't have the blocks available to do an exact copy of a lot of buildings. Here is that pond that we kind of ended on, because I forgot to record adding water to it. And by water, I mean a roof tile. And then we have, just filled in some grass areas alongside the path. The nice thing that's also good about raising up your path, just that one click above the terrain, is that you get the guardrails. A lot of people go in and build custom guardrails. I think that's great for a lot of themes, but for me, it gets a little tedious, and so I'm pretty happy to save some time. Just having some nice kind of ironwork kind of guardrails around, I think, just serves the park rather nicely already. I kind of wish that was like a toggleable feature, that when you lay it down, you could almost add rails or take off the rails. I think that would be pretty nice in the future if they could do something like that. So yeah, not much really changed elsewhere. Just threw in some more plants, threw in some rocks and stuff under this bridge, just so it looks a little bit more terrain conforming. And then this element here, this is just going to be surrounded with rocks and grass, and basically something to block your path so that people don't try and jump up there as a shortcut and stuff. But it does look pretty nice. Another thing, if you guys follow me on Twitter, is that I tweeted out this. I went ahead and carved in Pallet Town onto the entryway here using one of those blocks. What block is that? That's the wooden bracket. So you can make kind of text doing that by just using one side of it, and you can carve out, like I did here, Pallet Town. And it's kind of cool because I think people are using the entrance and exit kind of like they're supposed to be. I don't know why, but it's like they kind of already know where they want to go. I mean, occasionally, of course, one will enter from this side and one will exit from this side, but overall, they are generally entering and exiting on different sides, which is really cool. I think it's just how the pathing works for the most part. So you can see people enter and leave. There's one person going the wrong way. But yeah, at nighttime as well, the Pallet Town kind of becomes a little bit more visible as it is backlit. And yeah, it looks pretty nice. Not really much to show at nighttime. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I think that's going to do us for this episode of Planet Coaster. Next time, we will be working on our roller coaster, so do look forward to that. I do want to get this thing done and wrapping around through the forest and following some of the river all the way around. We did get the station to fit in here rather nicely. And so, Professor Oaks is officially a roller coaster station. So, until then, thank you guys so much for watching. If y'all enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe if you're new. Go ahead and hit that like button so I know you guys are liking how this thing is going. Hit that dislike button if you dislike how things are going. And go and check out my other videos. And until then, I'll see you guys in some more Planet Coaster.